Thank you everyone, and welcome to this knowledgeable and very nice session. मराठी कला मंडळ आणि उत्तरंग DC तर्फे फार्मास्युटिकल्स डेव्हलपमेंट अँड मॅन्युफॅक्चरिंग ओव्हरव्ह्यू. सो मी जास्त वेळ न घेता मी सूत्र ह्यांच्या हाती देतो, दिलीप परीखांच्या हाती, आणि मग आय थिंक हिज वाईफ इज गोइंग टू इंट्रोड्यूस हिम अँड देन विल स्टार्ट इट. सो आय विल स्टॉप शेअरिंग द स्क्रीन नाव अँड ओव्हर टू यू.
Start.
Namaskar. I'm Leena Parikh, and I'm going to introduce today's speaker. Many of you know Dilip from his theater activities for the last 30 years in our area, but today I'm going to talk about his other side. Dilip is a chemical engineer and a pharmacist with over 40 plus years of experience in pharmaceutical industry. He has held several technical and management positions in international companies like Johnson & Johnson, Novartis, and a German company GEA, for whom he built a pharmaceutical manufacturing facility in Maryland and was the managing director of the company for 8 years until the company was sold in 2002. Since then, he has formed his own consulting company where he consults worldwide with various pharmaceutical companies. He has published numerous scientific articles in the journals and has edited and written 2 books about pharmaceutical technologies. He has been an invited speaker at scientific conferences worldwide, and that's all about I have to say. And here is Dilip with his expertise in today's topic. Thank you.
Thanks, Alina. नमस्कार मंडळी. आज सब्जेक्ट जो आहे, विषय जो आहे तो इंग्लिशमध्ये असणार आहे आणि त्यामुळे मराठीमध्ये जास्ती बोलता येणार नाही मला, परंतु तुमचे काही प्रश्न असतील ते सगळे तुम्ही चॅटनी पाठवू शकता. मराठी, हिंदी कुठल्याही भाषेत पाठवा. मी त्या सगळ्यांचं उत्तर देण्याचा प्रयत्न करेन. ओके. एक मिनिट. So the pharmaceutical industry, it's a vast industry, and I'll be talking about it, really giving you a bird's eye view of the industry and give you a really taste of how the product, such as tablet, capsules, or vaccines are manufactured. We know that we are a pill popping, community or industry or country, if you will. So the pursuit of happiness is sometimes feel that we are really popping the pill and we'll be very happy. But so as we start the presentation, my outline of the presentation is we'll look at some of the types of pharmaceuticals that we are really familiar with, sources of drugs, where do they come from, what kind of source, whether it's a chemical, biological, or any other type of source of drugs. We'll look at the discovery process and development timeline for any kind of drug that is coming to the market that you see. What does it take to go through the FDA approval process? Irrespective of what you hear nowadays about the coronavirus situation, I'm going to go through what is supposed to be happening, what what has been happening all these years. Look at different manufacturing options, such as tablets. What is different, what are different processes that are involved in making that dosage form? So whether it's mixing, granulating, drying, compressing, coating of the tablets. We all look at the hard gelatin capsules, soft gelatin capsules, why drugs are expensive in the USA. And we all know, particularly the prescription drugs, and in some cases, now the generic drugs are also becoming much more expensive than they used to be. So look at the generic versus the brand name drugs. What is the difference beside price? We look at some of the new developments, such as control relief dosage forms, where you need to take one a day type of dose, instead of taking 3 tablets a day, take 1 tablet in 24 hours and you'll be okay. Also, we look at 3D printing. Now, this technology is really pretty familiar in a number of things, number of other industries, but I think biomedical industry, this is becoming much more popular, and particularly in the pharmaceutical area, we'll look at the 3D printing, look at the transdermal patches, where you can basically patch the drug on your skin and the drug is absorbed. We look at the biological drugs, which are basically like insulin or vaccine. And particularly we look at the vaccine manufacturing, different approaches that are being taken right now. Where are we with a vaccine for COVID-19? I think this is the changing situation every day. So, we'll touch upon what I know and the questions answered. So if I may request all of you to turn your audio and video off, that will help me. And then if you have any questions, please send it via chat and I'll try to address those. So when you look at the tablets and capsules as one of the dosage forms, the types of pharmaceuticals you have, we are all familiar with the dosage form, whether they are tablets of different shape, different sizes, or capsules containing powders or granules or pellets. Then there are injectables. We are all familiar with it. Other dosage forms are inhalants, essentially for inhaling, something like a diabetes type of medication. Transdermal patches are pretty much, popular in certain cases. And then liquids, lotions, and creams, which are, so a very broad category of drugs or different types of pharmaceuticals that are out there. When you look at where these people, things come from, I mean, if you look at the majority of these drugs have been originated from a chemical sources, mainly synthetic chemistry in the laboratory. And this is now changing to, you will start seeing a lot more biological sources of new drugs that are coming in the marketplace. Also, there are natural biopharmaceutical, where the actually herbal products or nutritional supplement are also gaining a lot of traction. So this scenario is changing. Now, I'm going to share a little video and see if it gives you a little bit of background as to what it takes to get a
We've all been touched by the miracles of modern medicine, but few people understand how medicines are made and the immense effort required to get them to market and into our hands. At any given moment, there are tens of thousands of research teams across the country working hard at analyzing diseases to find out what causes them. Once the treatment target of a disease is found, biopharmaceutical companies start investigating how to act on them, to stop the diseases from getting worse, or even reverse their courses. Tens of thousands of compounds are typically examined, and they come from all over, from natural compounds that already exist, to synthetic compounds made in labs or through bioengineering. Through a long and difficult process of elimination that can take as long as 6 years, they get it down to a single candidate medicine. Assembling all their findings, the company will now file for permission to do clinical testing with the FDA. This will be the first time that the new drug will be given to people, and safety is the most important concern of everyone involved. If approved, the candidate drug starts to go through a 3-phase clinical trial. Because of the emphasis on safety and efficacy, many drugs will not make it all the way through this process. Phase 1 trials are the first in humans, and usually small, focusing on the medicine's safety and how the drug moves through the body. Phase 2 trials are larger, focusing on the medicine's efficacy and dosing. Phase 3 trials are much larger and focus primarily on making sure the medicine is safe and effective for a wide variety of people. After a successful clinical trial, a process that usually takes 6 to 7 years, the biopharmaceutical company files a new drug application with the FDA. A typical application contains hundreds of thousands of pages for the FDA to review in a complex process that requires both time and scientific expertise. Once the FDA has evaluated all the available data, they will approve only those medicines they think are both safe and effective for public use. Even after approval, the FDA continues to monitor medicines on the market. Once approved, the biopharmaceutical company will manufacture and distribute the new medicine to people in order to treat and cure diseases. The result of this process seems so simple. It might be just one pill taken with water twice a day. But how it came to be in your medicine cabinet is anything but simple. For just this one drug to come into being, it has taken up to 1,000 people 12 to 15 years and $1.3 to $1.6 billion. It's a long and expensive process filled with stops, starts, and failures. But through it, our lives are made better every day.
So as you can see, it is a long process. Compounds may start out and end up from 10,000 to 1 or 2 compounds that will have some kind of therapeutic effect on our body, and the amount of money that is required to be spent. So there are preclinical studies, and then you go into the clinical studies and then filing the paperwork with the FDA. So this is how the different phases. Again, I'm emphasizing it because that's what is really taking so much time to get the product from laboratory studies, where you actually see that this is in a chemical area where you decide whether the dosing and toxicity levels is correct. This can be done in a animal studies also to decide the toxic level of any drug. And then you start seeing the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, based upon at every stage, the safety and efficacy of that drug. And then post-approval, which is called phase 4, which is required. So it is very important that you have this post-marketing surveillance, it is called. And because a lot of times when the drug gets approved, it is really few thousand people might be exposed to it. But once it gets approved, you are now talking about millions of people taking the drugs, and some people will have negative reaction. And if this reaction keeps on increasing among the people, you will start seeing a call for taking the product out of the market. And that has happened, as we know. So product categories that are out in the marketplace is the new drug entity. This is normally the innovator companies, big pharma companies, where they would conduct the preclinical studies, go through all the process that we just talked about, toxicity, dosing level, and filing with the NDA and conducting all the clinical studies and get approval. The next category is the generic product. Now, they are different in that number of things that we have gone through when it is a innovator product, new drug entity. The generic company does, they do not have to go through it. They have to look at what the product is already approved, and then they will start working on it years before the product is, the patent is expired. Say, for example, it's 20 years from now or 15 years from now, that patent expiration date is really as a target when no number of generic companies will manufacture and start working on developing the product. They will do the similar formulation as the innovator. And once all the studies are done, they will essentially have filing what is called abbreviated new drug application, as opposed to the new drug application or NDA, versus this is called ANDA. What they have to show that their formulation will show the bioequivalence. The product is equivalent, has a therapeutic value results, which are exactly like what the the innovator company is. And once you have that, a lot of companies will have to wait until the patent is expired before they can launch the product. But once the product is launched, you will see the prices of innovator drug will go down. The next one is the over-the-counter that you go to the pharmacy and pick up, like ibuprofen or Tylenol. These are the drugs which have been previously prescription drugs that have been on the market, and there is enough experience with this chemical product for a long period of time, and that FDA deems okay to have it as a over-the-counter with a sometimes lower dose than what the prescription drug was. So for example, ibuprofen is a good example. It used to be 400 to 600 milligram was a prescription drug for severe arthritic pain sometimes, but 200 milligram ibuprofen has become OTC. And then, you have to do all the stability studies and then manufacture product after you get the approval. And we come to the dietary supplement where no clinical studies or approval from FDA is required. So anybody can really, literally, and I have seen this happen over the years. Some of the companies in older days, they used to really manufacture the product in a garage, have a couple of pieces of equipment, and they just blend it and compress it. And those days are a little behind us. FDA has put some good manufacturing practice requirement for the dietary supplement industry also. Their main stipulation is they cannot claim any health benefit and must label a product as a dietary supplement. And it is available as the over-the-counter product. So these products are basically manufactured once some of these requirements are done. Why are we focusing on tablets and capsules? If you look at the dosage forms that are being consumed by all of us, the majority number is tablets and capsules are the numbers that we we have been using it, partly because it's a easy way of taking the dose tablets. You can carry it, and you can put it in your pocket. You can really take it in, if you're traveling, tablets or capsules. So it's a convenience, and in the dosage form options that are there. Then other dosages are available, but tablets and capsules are the most common, and that's why I decided to focus on it. Types of tablets, if you look at it, there are compressed tablets, which are basically tablets that we see. Sometimes these tablets have a very thin coating of polymer so that when you swallow it, it doesn't feel chalky. It will slide through your system. Then there are sugar-coated tablets, pretty much Advil, if you still look at it, standard Advil tablet. Now they are coming up with a film coating, which is a very thin coating of polymer. And depending upon the color that is really decided by the marketing people of that particular company, they will have those colors. Then there are effervescent tablets like Alka-Seltzer. You can just make the tablets and drop it into the water and drink that for gastric problems or cough and cold. Then there are enteric-coated tablets like enteric-coated aspirin, for example. The tablet that you do not wish to have it disintegrate in your stomach. Stomach has an acidic pH. So these tablets are coated specifically polymer that will not disintegrate the tablet in the stomach, but it will have the tablet disintegrate in intestine. Then there are chewable tablets. Then there are buccal tablets, the tablets which are really inserted under the cheek, because some of these drugs are, if they go through the digestive system, they will be destroyed. But if they are soluble, because there are a lot of capillaries under the cheek, so they will basically dissolve right in your mouth, and it will be directly transported into your bloodstream. Look at the sublingual tablets like nitroglycerin or B12, where again, similarly, you can put it under the tongue, and then these tablets will dissolve right without having to go through the digestive system. Then there are sprinkles for for population that is either pediatric or older people who have difficulty swallowing. The sprinkles are made, and you can sprinkle that onto, any kind of food, or take it with applesauce or so. But when you take tablet or capsule, one of the major things that must happen for it to work on your system, that tablet has to disintegrate, or capsule has to disintegrate in your stomach, and then the drug has to become free. That will then have to be dissolved, and then it will have impact on your system, will have a pharmacological effect on your system. So the tablet has to be broken up and then have a dissolution take place of the active ingredient. For that to facilitate, now every drug has to have some help to be able to do this process, along with to actually make the tablet, but also at the same time, you need to have certain ingredients in there that will help to disintegrate and dissolve the drug. That's where the excipient or inactive ingredients, or we call it fillers. So if you look at any of the packages, you will find number of ingredients are listed, which are inactive ingredients, and there is a functionality of each of these ingredients depending upon what the ultimate objective of that tablet or capsule is. So I'm not going to go through it, but everything that you see here has a function to be able to make the tablet or capsule, as well as help to disintegrate in your stomach. This is, again, capsule also has the similar situation like tablets have the excipients. The shells of the capsules are generally made out of gelatin, but at the same time, nowadays, you will see some of these capsules made with cellulose also, because a lot of people do not like to have a gelatin in their system for whatever reason. So a typical tablet composition, if you look at it, if you look at the panel of any of the package, you will see in this particular case, you have a chlorpheniramine maleate, which is 2 milligram as an active ingredient, but you look at the inactive ingredient, these are the number of things that are need to be added for aesthetic reason, for functionality reason, and for making it through the system in your system. If you look at the ibuprofen, similarly, it's a 200 milligram. The tablet may be 200 milligram dose, but actual number of ingredients that are required are maybe, this tablet actually may be weighing 400, 500 milligram. Out of that, 200 milligram is drug, and the rest of the thing is all the excipients that are required to make it into tablet and then actually disintegrate and dissolve in your system. So for making, I'll give you a quick rundown of the number of steps that are required. You need to understand what is the quantity of the drug that needs to be per tablet. Is it 10 milligram, 20 milligram, 500 milligram? What is it? You have to have some understanding of that. You need to understand its flow properties. Does it flow like a sand or as a flour, like cooking flour? As well as its chemical and biological properties. You need to have some knowledge of other ingredients that are required that will be compatible with the drug. And we need to do this. This is what is called pre-formulation studies, where you actually do need to do a lot of compatibility studies between the ingredient and your drug. After selection of these things, and if you decide, okay, combining the excipients or fillers with your drug, it really flows like nicely, then you can mix those and make it into a capsule or tablet, which is normally called direct compression. If it is not flowing, then you have to what is called a granulation. It's really making a dough, with powder and your drug and other excipient, and adding solvent, which is maybe water or water alcohol combination, and some kind of binder as a glue to hold this thing together. These are normally polymers that are used, cellulose polymers. These granulated products are then dried, and dry ingredients are then compressed into a tablet or filled into a capsule. If you need to coat the tablet, then the tablets are coated. So why do we have to have a good flow of material to make tablet or capsules? One of the main reasons is the modern high-speed tableting and capsule filling machines produce millions of tablets and capsules per hour. So that's why you need to have a very smooth and uniform flow of material to these machines, so that you can produce the tablet in capsules very quickly. As I said, the mixture flows uniformly to the machine, then it's called direct compression process. If it doesn't flow, then you have to go through what is called granulation process. And the granulation can be made by pressure, which is called dry granulation, or it could be a wet granulation process, which involves liquid binder. Now, granulation technology, even though the process sounds simple, it is a very complex process. And I even edited and wrote 2 books on that subject, which are very popular in the industry as well as in academia. And they are now in the 4th edition. So the point I'm trying to make, my wife, when I said to her, so we're talking granulation, is it's like, I make it every day. What is that, specific about that or big deal about it? But I try to explain that it's more than what it is. There's a lot more technology involved and a lot more options involved. So the direct compression, as I said, you do the weighing of the material, sieving of the material, blending and tableting on the machine. Wet granulation process requires adding liquid and go through the complete process of drying and blending and tableting and coating. Dry granulation is, again, blending it and putting it through some kind of compaction machinery that will give you a dry product. And this is important if you are looking at effervescent type of product where the moisture in your formulation could basically destroy the formulation. So you need to have no moisture, and this may be the process that you want to utilize. And capsules, a lot of times the product, if it doesn't flow, you can fill that type of product in a capsule. A lot of herbal products can be, you'd see that in a capsule form because it's very difficult to compress herbal products easily. And you have to do quite a bit of formulation before you can actually get the results. Direct compression, basically, as I said, it's you combine the material and then mix it, put it in a tablet press. If you want to put it in a blister pack or bottle pack, you go into roller compaction where the mixture is put through there are 2 rollers which squeeze the product and produce a strip like a ribbon type of material, which then is broken down into granules. And those are the granules that are put on the tablet press along with other equipment. And you can actually do the compression. The wet granulation process is a very long process, very tedious process. It requires a number of manufacturing steps. You start out with powders along with your active ingredients and your fillers. You mix it, make a dough in here, and pass the dough through mill to give you granules, wet granules. They are dried. The dried granules are milled again, mixed, put it on the tablet press, do the coating on a coating machine. If tablet needs to be printed with your logo or name of the product, they are printed individually and you get a final product. So you see the number of steps involved in making a product through this particular wet granulation process. The mixers are pretty much a very simple mixer from a laboratory type mixer, which are, we can use it in cooking at home also, or, you can look at it in making a Dunkin' Donut. You walk in, this is what you will basically see. However, most of the pharmaceutical industry uses different kind of mixer, which has a high efficiency and high impact, and they are called high shear mixers, and they look something like that. And you look at a little video. So this is a typical video of a high shear mixer where you charge the material. Now, in the video, you will see the material is really granular, but normally it is not. It's very fluffy material along with your active ingredient and your other fillers. Then you start adding binder solution. Some kind of glue or some other binder is in here. And then as the binder droplets are coming in, you start forming the granules as the droplets are adhering to each other, to the particles. And then this one, basically the chopper, what you call it, breaks up any big lumps that may be taking place. There are other option also is a twin screw granulation, where the material again is fed through the screw feeder. It's like making hamburger. If you are basically putting the material here, which with combination of your powders, and then add your liquid, and then the real kneading is taking place, and you get your granules. Now you can make, we do this, you're making shave or any kind of hamburgers, they will come through some kind of plate here. So the granules that are coming out, which are wet. Now these wet granules have to be dried. So the drying normally takes place depending upon the technology that certain companies might have available. The older technology was using a tray dryer, where individual trays are loaded with the wet product, and then the whole tray is put inside a chamber, and then the hot air is blown through, and the exhaust is exhausted, the hot vapors. And so it might take a long time. It might take you 24 hours to dry the product in this kind of contraption. So this was the old technology. The newer technology that is now quite common is called fluid bed technology, where the processor that you see here, the product that you want to dry is normally charged in the center down, on the lower portion, and the hot air is blown from the bottom. So this whole chamber is called fluid bed processor. And the technology is basically you have a gas or hot air is passing through the product that is inside this bottom section of the chamber. And then as the gas velocity is increased, the product is suspended in an airstream, and it basically dries out as it essentially fluidizes. And normally it will take 45 minutes before which you will, in that time frame, it will be dried compared to 24 hours. You can also utilize the same piece of equipment to do the granulation. Also, you start with powders to be granulated along with your drug and excipients, and binder solution is added as it is suspended. So this is a laboratory size unit. Again, you charge your product in a fluidized bed chamber, and then the hot air is going to come from the bottom and suspend it, all the particles in the air. There is a filter to retain particles. So the hot air is coming in. Now this nozzle is going to start spraying the binder solution on it, and pretty much what we see in how the granules are actually formed. Here's the binder solution being sprayed on, and individual particles are suspended in airstream, and they will basically get attached by the glue or the binder solution, and all this polymer is going to form a granule. The dry product is then put into a, like industrial size mixers. Add all your lubricants and disintegrants. These are the extra ingredients that are needed. If you are doing chewable tablet, you might add sugar and flavors in at the same time. So depending upon what you are doing, these things will be added. Then it comes to the next stage, production of tableting on a tablet compression machine. These are very high-speed tablet presses. You see the tablet press here. When the tablets are compressed at 250 to 1 million tablets an hour, they are being discharged at this particular point. They might have some dust on it. This is a deduster that tablets basically travel. While traveling, they will be dedusted by compressed air. And then they have also some anti-magnetic, they will, in case there is a metal detection that needs to be done. So this is the final tablet that will be collected. The tablets are compressed based upon the size or shape of the tablet is based upon the tooling that is required. So it's like if you require certain types of shapes of tablets, that type of tooling is required. So you need punches. These are called punches and dies. You have upper punch, a lower punch, and a die. That is called one station. And then different shapes are available. The process of compression, you see the upper layer of punches and lower layer of punches. And these are compression rollers where the these punches are actually push down the material that you want to compress is right here. So as you start seeing the tablet is getting formed at this particular point, at this end on my right hand, and the product is actually charged here. This is the feeder. And as the punches are coming down and the lower punches are coming up, upper punches are coming down and squeezing the powder and forming the tablet. Now, as you can imagine, this is a very slow motion movement of particles, but this is going on very, very fast, close to, as I said, 250,000 to 1 million tablets per hour. All kind of shapes and tablets that are available. We have seen it, all prescription products or any kind of tablet that you want. And this decision of what shape tablet that has to be done, a lot of times it's a marketing decision by the marketing companies, marketing department of the company. Some of these are specific brand name type of thing where the tablets like a triple, these are lifesaver tablets or different type of prescription products. There are tablets within tablets also that can be done, but all that it depends upon what your marketing decision, marketing department is. If the tablets have to be coated, the oldest method that was used was a sugar coating, and the coats were basically, these are the tablets which are coming from the tablet press, and then they get coated with several layers of material that could be called subcoating, could be calcium carbonate and some other chemicals that are added. Sometimes talc is also added in here. Then there is a sugar syrup that is being coated on top, and then you continue. So this might take you close to a couple of days to do the 200 kilo batch. The next and the most common one that you see is the film coating, where a thin layer of coating is actually put on the tablet for aesthetic coating. If you need some kind of controlled release type of coating, then there is called functional coating, that a different kind of polymer is added to the solution, and then tablets are coated in a machine. If it is enteric coated, it is also going through different type of polymer that will basically assure that the coating is not going to dissolve in your stomach, but it will be in the intestine. Then there is a compression coating where the tablet is coated with its other material. During the compression process, it requires a different kind of double type of compression machine. So it's just a tablet within tablet for a number of reasons. So these are coating pans, which actually do the coating process, where this coating solution is sprayed onto the tablets, which are rolling. It's like a washing machine. It's going in circle, and the tablets are rolling in there. As they are rolling, you blow the hot air and have an exhaust, and at the same time you start spraying your liquid. So this was a sugar coating. You go through all this process. The film coating pretty much has the same thing, and these are the modern machines where you really don't have exposure to the operator of any kind of dust. Sugar coating, these are some of the examples of different types of coating. These are the film coated tablets. And then, these are M&Ms, sugar coated tablets. You start out with a center that is chocolate or peanut, depending upon what kind it is. And you have sugar coated M&Ms. We'll come to the capsules. There are different types of capsules that are available. And they're really versatile, because you could fill them with powders, you can fill them with sort of mini tab, or you can fill them with pellets, any kind of combination, pellet and tablet, pellet and powder, powder and tablet, semi-solid and liquid sometimes can be filled in here. Most of the times you need to have a banding so that there is no leakage of material, or nobody can actually open the capsule to really make it tamper-proof packaging of individual capsule, as well as the individual bottles that you see. They're tamper-proof packaging also. which started back in 1982 when there was a Tylenol poisoning in Chicago in 1982. After that, the banding become much more required by FDA. The capsules, as they are supplied to the manufacturing place by capsule manufacturer, they are randomly in a box, if you will. So the machine has to really utilize what is called rectification, meaning that all the tops of the capsules are lined up in one way, and then the cap is removed by the machine, and the product is filled, and the cap is put back in, and then the product is discharged. So the process, basically, whether it is tablet or liquid, it starts out at this point where the empty capsules are loaded, and then there is a rectification, meaning all caps are up and all bodies are down, and then they get separated out by the machine. The product is then filled, and then the cap is basically put back in, and the final product is discharged right here, because there is some dust maybe there that will the capsule then are polished. This is the kind of automated machinery that is used to do the capsule filling. We talk about capsules as soft gelatin capsules. A lot of the liquids that we see that are in soft gel. Also, some of the bath tablets or capsules, you'll see those are basically added into bathtub to give you the nice soaking bath with some of the flavorings there. But majority of the pharmaceuticals, you will see the soft gel is some kind of vitamin E, vitamin D3. Those are the liquid products that are filled into this. The filling of this is very simple, but it's very expensive machinery. There are two rolls that you can see it here, the die plate, which depending upon the size of the capsule that you are preparing, those rolls, that type of roll is actually set up here. The drug or the liquid that you want to fill, it comes in from the center, and it will basically have gelatin ribbons come and actually so you'll see that this is the product that is coming in, and there is a reservoir which will control, and these are the two ribbons of the only reason there are two different colors, it doesn't have to be two different colors, it depends upon what type of final capsule you're looking for. But as you can see, the ribbons are basically being brought in right at the point where the liquid is dropped in, and you have now a soft gel capsule that is prepared that will be then cured. This is still wet, and then the capsule is basically put into drying chamber for 24 hours to be able to give you product. One of the things that we need to talk about is the time release dosage forms. When you take any kind of tablet, which is, I call it immediate release, you take a Tylenol, for example. If it's a regular Tylenol, you start taking, and it goes into your bloodstream, is gradually increases the concentration in your bloodstream. It reaches some value, and then it starts going downhill, and then you have to take the second tablet, and then so on and so forth. You have to keep on taking this. To get away from that, time release dosage form being made, the formulation is made so that once you take it, it's a release pattern is gradually, this is the level that you want. This is the therapeutic level. These two levels are where the product is going to be capable of performing the way it is supposed to perform. So to be able to do that, you have to do a number of different formulation changes and some of the processing changes to give you the time release product. One of the ways you can do it is you coat the product with a polymer and give you a different kind of level of coating, thickness of coating, so that the material is released over a period of time by diffusion. Or you could have a tablet coated with material that is a buffer material and release, immediate release product, layer of immediate release versus layer of polymer, so that everything is very much controlled over a period of time. You can also have what is called a osmotic pump type of product, where the capsule or tablet is manufactured in such a fashion that the concentration of the drug, there is a laser drill hole in individual tablet. So the product is gradually released through the hole into your system, and it is controlled. The release is controlled by the buffer and the placebo material that is inside the tablet or capsule. Also, you have pellets that can be coated at different level. Different pellets are coated at a different level, so that some pellet may be released right away. Some pellet require, 12-hour release. Some require 24-hour release. All these three different type of pellets are coated with a different quantity of material, that's different kind of polymer, and then they are combined to put it in a capsule. So when you take it, all these things will take its, course. Then there are transdermal patches. Essentially, these are coated drug with a liner that attaches to your skin, and then the drug is actually in there, which diffuses through your through the liner into your skin. And good example is, Salonpas is, good example. You have a lidocaine drug that is in the patch that will basically permeate through your skin. So the skin and then your drug reservoir. The newest technology is the 3D printing of pharmaceutical. Now, all of us know 3D printing has really revolutionized industry. That is, number of industries it has revolutionized. You look at how we use it in the pharmaceutical area, as you have a powder blend that basically goes through a hot melt type of extrusion and make a filament. You want to have like a thin wire type of material coming out of this. That thin wire of material of your drug and excipients and polymer are being fed into a printer, a 3D printer that will be basically print out the tablet. Now, big advantage here is this can be done, they call it personalized medicine. And this whole thing is controlled obviously by the computer. So the computer will design what size tablet you need, what dosage you need, and depending upon individual, you can actually make it. Now, there may be days in the future sometime when you go to the pharmacy with a prescription, pharmacists might give you in your, they might have in the back a 3D printer, and they will basically give you the dosage in 15 minutes. Come back and you will have the exact dose that your doctor had prescribed. The medical application of 3D printing is enormous nowadays. As I said, we talked about personalized drug dosing or unique dosage form that cannot be done with a traditional technology. Bioprinting of tissues or organs that is taking place right now. There are companies who manufacture actually or print the liver, organs. Additional surgical, preparations are done, customized implants and prostheses, and complex drug release profile. So this technology is upcoming, and I think you will see more and more application of 3D printing in biopharmaceutical areas. Here's one of the drug 3D printing of the theophylline tablets that we will see. So actual printing of that tablet is taking place. The filament of the theophylline drug is actually fed into this system, and you will start seeing the actual shape of the tablet starting to take place. So there you have it. I mean, it's a slow process compared to the millions of tablets that you produce on a traditional method, but this is a personalized medicine field that this is going to happen more and more. What about generics? Generic drugs represent 86% of all the prescriptions that are filled in the US. It's a $450 billion market. And generic drugs are really increasing in its usage. The medication really started back in 1984 with the Hatch-Waxman Amendment Act to Food, Pharmaceutical, Drug, and Cosmetic Act that time, and it was considered one of the most successful pieces of legislation ever passed. Essentially, it created the generic industry in 1984, allowed generic firms to rely upon findings of safety and efficacy of the innovator drugs. So this is where the generic companies bypass all the expensive stuff that innovator companies go through. So the patent is expiring, and then the exclusivity is going off, and the generic companies can take care of manufacturing that product. So the 1984, if you look at it, 12% of prescriptions were generic compared to that. Now, more than 86% prescriptions are generic. Now, if you look at the brand name pricing, as long as there is no competition, the price is fairly high. As soon as the first generic hits the market, what happens? You see the brand name basically starts dropping in pricing. So if you have brand name, you're paying $10 a tablet up until their exclusivity. Now it will go down to $5 on a tablet, while this generic might come with a $2 a tablet. And if there is more than one generic, the generic prices will go down to $1 a tablet. So this is why the generic competition will take place. And a lot of times, what do brand names do? They try to combine their know-how, and then they get hold of generic companies and say, hey, can you hold off marketing your generic product? I'll give you some money, and you can just hold off even though you have approval, thereby extending their exclusivity even for long. Now this has become a very difficult thing to do nowadays, and number of companies have been sued by the government. But the point here is generic competition basically lowers the pricing. So what is the difference between the NDA and ANDA, or generic and brand name? As I have seen before, chemistry, manufacturing, control, labeling, all these things are done. And then the biggest cost and time consuming that needs to be done is the animal studies, clinical studies, and the bioavailability studies that innovator companies have to go through. Generic companies don't have to go. They take all this data that is already there. They say, hey, the product is already on the market. We know all this is what they will have to do. They can basically make the product look like the innovator. The formulation may be same, and they have to actually compare their formulation by showing the blood studies or bioequivalency studies in humans, that it is equivalent, the level of drug in the plasma is equivalent to the brand name. They have to be able to show that along with the stability studies. Once they do that, then they will get approval to manufacture generic product. And so in India, you will find number of companies, the biggest market that you see, and if you take prescription in this country nowadays, now, 80 to 90% of the drugs are manufactured in India that we still get here. So why are they less expensive in other countries? If you just look at here, this is a comparison between United States, Canada, and United Kingdom. Every time you see the dot line here is the US price, followed by Canada and UK. Every case you will see the product is much more expensive than a same formulation and manufactured by the same company in other countries. But these, one of the main reason is we have no price control in the US. Companies can charge whatever the going price is, and except when they are negotiating with Medicare. Have you looked at what is happening with the campaign contribution? Look at this. 2016 election cycle, $16 million were given to 399 members of the House of Representatives. $7 million tablets were, or not tablets, I hope it was tablets, $7 million were given to 97 members of the Senate in 2016 cycle. Even Hillary Clinton got 2.4 million in the 2016 election versus Trump got 343,000 in 2016 election. Other reason, in 1997, FDA approved direct-to-consumer advertising, increasing the consumption of drugs and prices as well. So anyone who is watching evening news knows what I'm talking about. Those commercials were not allowed up until 1997. When the FDA said, okay, the consumption of these drugs, consumers basically looked at the consumption, the advertisement, and go to the doctor and say, hey, prescribe me that particular drug that, that shows on TV that it will cure my this and that particular disease. Also, pharma companies figured out the way to extend the patent. And this is a lot of technical detail that I'm not going to go in, but they have a lot of tricks up their sleeves that basically extend the patent from traditionally 20 years to more by doing certain extension. So if it is a immediate release drug that is on the market, they will make it an extended release drug and extend the patent for another few years, or do some studies with a pediatric dosage form. Also, look at the marketing expenses and research development expenses comparison. Johnson & Johnson, if you look at $17.5 billion, not million, billion dollars are being spent on sales and marketing versus $8.2 billion in research and development. And similarly, this is same thing with most of the pharmaceutical companies. Maybe Roche is an exception here, where they spend more on R&D versus in marketing. Just yesterday, FDA released a new guidance for importing RX drugs from foreign countries. So the indication is now, this is just, as I said, September 25th, guidance document basically says it will allow the importation of drugs from other countries if they follow certain requirements, which is called multi-market approval they have to get, and which basically has to show that the product that is being sold in Canada, for example, is exactly the same, and they have to be proven that the testing has to be done in this country, and then get an authorization from FDA. So if somebody's ordering on their, for their personal use, we're not talking about that. If there is a company that is doing importation, that company has to meet with all these requirements. So maybe, hopefully, we'll get some relief on the prescription drug pricing. We come to the biological drugs, which, as I said, more and more companies are now looking at and manufacturing products, and we'll see this. If you compare the complexity of biological drugs, here's the small molecule versus the biological molecule, which is the complex biological molecule. And then the comparison is like if you compare the aspirin or chemical-based product like tablets or capsules that we've been talking about, it's like a canoe. As soon as you go into complex process like insulin, the complexity really starts getting more and more. And if you go to a larger, like antibody, interferon type of thing, the large biological molecule is like a cruise ship. So the complexity is very much into biological as you go into different levels. A good example here is the biological drug, where you actually have a plasmid or small piece of DNA is taken out, and a human insulin gene is incorporated in that, and then that particular gene is put into the bacterium, and then the insulin is basically produced. It's a very simplified process, but a typical manufacturing facility would look something like this. Look at what the biological medicines have done for cancers, arthritis, psoriasis, inflammatory digestive disorders, growth disorders, diabetes. And these are some of the drugs that we have all heard about or at least seen commercial on TV. Lantus for diabetes, Humira or Remicade or Rituxan or Enbrel for rheumatoid arthritis or psoriasis or Crohn's disease. These are all biological origin drugs. Herceptin for breast cancer or metastatic stomach cancer, Avastin or Lucentis. These are age-related macular degeneration or breast, colorectal, kidney, lung, brain, and ovarian cancers. And of course, we all know about Botox, that blocks nerves and muscles from activating. That's a toxin. So as you can see, the types of product that are being manufactured using biological sources is increasing. Now, generic companies are trying to mimic this. It is very difficult to mimic. It's called biosimilar products, which again, similar to generic product made with a chemical similarities. Now they are making the biosimilar product, and there are a couple of products that have been approved by FDA, which are exactly similar to what the brand name biological product was. And we come to the vaccine. The vaccine is again a biological product. This typical the definition is vaccine stimulates a person's immune system to produce immunity to a specific disease, protecting the person from that disease. If you look at the important dates in the history of vaccine development, you're looking at 1796, where the first vaccination actually took place. 1896, and Louis Pasteur, 1879 rather, Louis Pasteur, the first vaccine for chicken, cholera. You got 1921, you got TB vaccine, yellow fever vaccine in 38, polio vaccine in 1963. 1970, you got rubella vaccine. Hepatitis B vaccine was 1986. They tried quite a bit to get HIV vaccine, have not been successful. A lot of effort had gone through it. And the Ebola vaccine in 2019, and we are now struggling to get coronavirus vaccine. How vaccines have eradicated common diseases is really miraculous, because if you look at 20th century annual deaths, annual morbidity in measles was 530,000 people used to die annually. 2019, the cases were 1,287 only, almost 99% reduction. Pertussis or whooping cough, mumps, rubella, all these vaccines have basically reduced smallpox to zero or polio to zero. So vaccines have done tremendous amount of service to the humanity. Traditional techniques, WHO isolates the virus and sends it to the vaccine manufacturer through the FDA. And then they are, depending upon the type of vaccine, it can go into egg-based vaccine, which is the flu vaccine, which we normally see. So that virus is then incubated into a chicken egg, and then it is multiplied, it's then purified, and then it turns into a vaccine through a complex process. Similarly, cell-based vaccine is actually done the same way, but instead of chicken egg, they are actually done into bioreactor, and you isolate the antigens, and then basically vaccine is produced through that. Recombinant vaccine is, again, the newest technology that is being used. Again, so the antigens are molecules that are capable of stimulating and response, and antibodies are basically there to take the antigen. They are basically the site for the antigen to attach. If you look at the complexity of the manufacturing process, it, as I said, starts out bacterial virus or cell culture, harvesting, purification. Harvesting is where you really have long time before you actually get the purification stage. Inactivation is taking place depending upon what type of vaccine you are producing. Valence assembly, these are very traditional method, and there are different ways it's being manufactured now for COVID. Formulation is done, filling, freeze drying, packaging, batch release, and transportation. Now, a lot of times this is a critical place, because you have to have vaccine at a very sub-zero temperature to be able to maintain its activity. So this shipping of this and distribution of this is very critical. And that's why sometimes people have to keep in mind, even if we find the COVID vaccine tomorrow, to get it to the point where it is actually useful to everybody, it will take a long time. This is a good example of influenza vaccine. The complexity of that, it starts out with the WHO and FDA collaborating and selecting they will predict what type of strain of flu that is going to be coming in February. And then they will release that to the manufacturer, and the manufacturer will take that strain and go through the complete process of manufacturing and purifying and filling and distribution all the way. And this is where you see in doctor's office, you will see the vaccine is available. We can go take it. Common components of vaccine, you obviously have some active that is in their vaccine. Then there are a lot of adjuvants or fillers, if you want to call it, or vehicle. Some cases you might have some antibiotic in the vaccine. Also some stabilizers, some preservatives, and some of the new I have seen that COVID-19 vaccine that are being talked about, some of them have no preservatives at all. And then there may be stress some components. So the composition of this is going to change depending upon what the product is. So these are the typical types of coronavirus vaccine approaches that are being underway right now. That's what everybody's looking forward to. This is a DNA, RNA type of vaccine where the vaccine uses DNA or RNA of a molecule to teach the immune system to target key viral proteins. Now, this is a very experimental stage, but people feel that this has a bigger chance of getting to the market. And Moderna, everybody has heard about it. They are really into phase 3. The next one is live attenuated. This is a weakened version of the actual virus. The attenuation means it's really reduced in its activity, and that is then that is what is given to the patient, which stimulates a robust immune response. Companies that are, the example of this is measles, mumps, and rubella and chickenpox vaccine are pretty much done with this particular technology. So this same technology is being applied to do the COVID-19. And, these are a couple of companies, Codagenix and Indian Immunological Limited, are working on it. Inactivated vaccine itself it uses the virus that is been totally killed. And it is safe because the virus is already dead and easy to make. But this is not as effective. Good example is the polio. And then the company called Sinovac and Sinopharm are working on this. Subunit, again, these are vaccine used as a pieces of virus surface to focus your immune system. And Novavax, just today's news or yesterday's news, Novavax has started phase 3 studies utilizing this particular technology. And then the viral vector type of technology is being used, where the approach takes harmless virus and uses it to deliver the viral gene to build. So it's like, it's a vector that is being taking a viral gene and then introducing into your body. So live viruses tend to elicit stronger immune response. Ebola and veterinary medicine is basically using this approach, and Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, along with University of Oxford, are basically working on this particular. And we heard that J&J's vaccine might require only one dose versus some of these ones require 2 doses. So this is, again, different technologies being used by different companies, public and nonprofit, academic and private industrial. North America, you'll see a lot more private companies are involved in coming up with it. 140, this is again maybe dated, 140 preclinical trials going on, 10 are in phase 1, 9 are in phase 2, and maybe now more than 4 in phase 3. So the results are going to be available sometime, they say, before November 3rd, which I doubted. But anyway, these are different technologies that are being worked on and where they are in phase 1. 13 candidates are there, 12 in phase 2, and phase 3, 9 candidates. So these are the 34 candidates that are between phase 1 and 3. So as of September 18, there are 224 additional vaccine candidates in preclinical trial phase. So typical process, as everybody knows, if this was normal circumstances and we found out in April 2020 that we have a vaccine that need to be, come up with a manufacturer, or you have to have a vaccine, there will be a couple of years of academic research. We do the clinical trials. So by 2028, all the clinical trials would have been finished. We'll start manufacturing by 2033, and vaccine will be ready in 2036. You can see that 16 years is normal timeline that is taking versus what we're trying to do here. We're trying to do even if this is what the target is. We're trying to get January 21 to start manufacturing for wider distribution, and vaccine will be ready sometime in May. This is, most scientific minds basically say it will take by mid-August next year before everybody can just walk into the doctor's office and get a flu shot. So summarizing, there are a number of different pharmaceutical dosage forms manufactured. Process developing a drug product is long and expensive one, requires understanding of the properties of the drugs and other ingredients. Tablets or capsules are the most widely used dosage forms due to high-speed manufacturing equipment and relatively longer shelf life. Generic industry is helping to reduce the cost of products to the patients compared to the brand name after patent expiration. There are newer drugs that are being developed from biological sources. 3D printed tablets and other developments may open up possibility of personalized medicine era. And new manufacturing techniques are being experimented considering COVID-19 virus pandemic. I really would like to thank Marathi Kalamandal, MKMDC, and Uttarang, and particularly Aniruddha Bhakre, president of MKM, and Rajini Zogrekar, coordinator of Uttarang, for giving me this opportunity to present this overview. And thank you for all of you for your attention. I'll take any chat or anybody has any questions.
Yes, so we have some questions. So thank you, first of all, thank you, Dilip ji, for a very informative and very session, which I don't know how these things get manufactured, the tablets and all those things, and it's very eye-opening and very informative. So thank you for that. I will just read it out some questions, and then you can answer it. So the first question, and I'm going one by one through the chat windows. So the first question is from Vijay and Lalita Deshpande. Can you swallow sublingual B complex with water? Is it ineffective?
Yeah, I think the main reason you need to do this sublingual is it really, you want to have a quick action. And the quick action is if you can have the drug go directly into your bloodstream, you will get the, right away the good reaction. For example, if you have a heart attack coming, and if you have a nitroglycerin tablet if you try to swallow it, it will take a long time for that to work because it will go through the stomach, acid, and it has to disintegrate. The best thing, that's why these tablets are made, sublingual tablets are made that they are easily dissolvable in your, in your mouth, under the tongue. And the tongue or cheek, you have a lot of capillaries there. That capillaries basically absorb the dissolved drug right away. So I would not suggest you take it internally. I'm not a doctor, but just looking at the manufacturing reason why we do the sublingual tablet, it should be done the way it is, designed is to take it under the tongue and to get a quick reaction. Because if you're having a heart attack and you try to swallow that effect will not take place, and you may suffer consequences because of that. So always, if it is sublingual, take it under the tongue, and it will create effect right away.
Okay, thank you. The next thing is that, I mean, this is a general question, but what percent of pharmaceuticals sold in the US are manufactured in China, India, and Europe?
Well, you would be surprised. The Chinese made final product, like dosage form. You won't see that much in this country. I don't have the percentage, but China is the source of raw material. A lot of companies who manufacture product have to buy raw material from China or even India. Now, the final dosage form that you see in this country, you will see 80 to 90% of the drugs that are, generic drugs particularly, are manufactured in India, and they are imported here. So if you look at, even though a company like Teva or Mylan or Sandoz, these companies, they will have US brand name, but the product will be manufactured in India. And the reason for that is really cost of manufacturing is 1/10 what it will cost to manufacture here. Now, the chemical raw material that is manufactured outside of the US is partly, we have strict environmental regulations, and that has made a lot of companies here to go to China, particularly there where there is no problem. People don't really follow the same kind of environmental regulations, and they don't have to really comply with all the pollution control. And to some extent, India also had the same thing. India also had a lot of chemical manufacturing that is done with less stringent regulation than US. So, but you will see that particularly generic product that are manufactured in India, you will see in your prescription when you go to fill in either any of the pharmacy, Target or Walmart or any of these, Walgreens, and you will see that it is, if it is packaged product, a lot of times you will see that the bulk may be manufactured somewhere, but the packaged in the US. And that's how some of the Indian companies, when they started establishing themselves in this country, like Ranbaxy, now they are not, or Sun Pharma, you got Aurobindo, you got, so those are companies who are now have their facility here. But the way they started, they have manufacturing facility in India. They manufacture their product, they ship it here in bulk, and then they package it in this facility where they can control, whether the labeling and everything is complying with the FDA regulation.
Okay, that's nice to know. The next thing is that when you talk about the colors and the tablet, which we come up with the different colors. Mm-hmm. So are these colors natural? I mean, edible?
Well, yes and no. So most of these are not natural. They are made, some chemicals. For example, if you look at the colors like, iron type of colors, ferric oxide, these are chemicals that offer. Some of the nutritional supplement, they claim to have some natural colors as the only source, but most of these colors that you see are not natural. On the tablets, they are very minuscule quantities, chemicals that are mixed with polymers to give you the kind of color that you require. Now, the value of color is very critical also. It is a marketing decision to some extent, but when people actually are used to taking tablets and they don't really know, do I take a blue pill or a red tablet or purple tablet, and they are used to taking one color tablet, the color becomes the identification mark. Now, a lot of times you will see tablets with a number punched on it. That is the number, the NDC number, or new National Drug Code. Every product that is marketed in this country has a NDC number. So if you take any package, whether it is OTC or prescription product, you will see a NDC number, and that is the number that is registered with FDA. So that basically tells you, the type of product that has been approval has been granted by the FDA. Now, the colors are really, the industry is trying to get away from synthetic chemicals that impart colors. Some companies have been able to successfully eliminate the colors. So, but majority of the colors are not natural.
Okay. And does the majority of manufactured drugs based on research done by the government labs, or they are done in the private?
Well, some research is done, some breakthrough research like an AIDS drug, or even some of the research has done in NIH. But a lot of that is being done through universities also. So some of that may be, at a public cost, if you will. But I would say, I don't have, again, percentage wise, but I would say industry is doing quite a bit of research themselves as well. But some of the, critical areas sometimes become, AIDS area is one of the big, I remember that because I was involved in manufacturing product for AIDS back in 1992, 96, in that era. And the product was basically, the drug was done research in the laboratory, but NIH was working with them. And a lot of basic research, even to identify certain things. And biological research now is more and more happening with the government laboratories and major pharmaceutical houses. They are basically collaborating with each other, if you will. And I think you will see that happening not only in the US, but agencies in other countries, in European countries, also have basic involvement in helping the drug development.
Okay. The next question is, do generics have different polymers, binders, etc. than the brand name? So in other words, can generic react differently than brand name on an individual?
Well, yes and no. I mean, a lot of times it may have the same type of ingredients, but the composition of each, like if you take a drug and if you look at the formulation, you have a drug and then maybe 3 inactive ingredients. The percentage of these inactive ingredients and how they are incorporated in a product by an innovator may be different than if I was making a copy of it. I may use the same ingredient, but I may not know what composition I need to, come up with. The proof is in the pudding. What you have to be able to show, irrespective. I mean, there is a list of ingredients. The fillers or excipients that are allowed by FDA. There is a complete list on FDA website. Those are the only ingredients that you can use, and the maximum quantity of those ingredients, raw materials in each of these dosage form. So there is a limitation. So if you make a product, what you have to show that whatever the formulation that you come up with, it is actually doing the same in the body. And then that is what is called a blood studies that have to be done. So I make the product in the laboratory. I basically show that it disintegrates in my vessel, similar to the brand name. I'll buy the brand name product. I'll do my formulation and compare. Both of them are, say, disintegrating in my stomach in 15 minutes, and it completely dissolves in 20 minutes, whatever the case may be. Once that I can show that in vitro, they call it in vitro, meaning in the laboratory. Now I had to take my drug and the innovator drug and go to a clinical laboratory that will conduct the blood studies. They will actually find the patients, and they will give them, patients will be given the same drug as innovator, some will be given my drug. And the study was basically, they will have to measure the plasma concentration of drug in your body, in the patient's body rather. And if they are able to show that data has to be compiled. There's a lot of biostatistical data has to be generated by looking at the comparative data, and then all that comparative data has to be submitted to the FDA. Once that is done, that shows that it is exactly like the innovator. It basically goes the concentration and releases the drug, and you have the same therapeutic effect. That is when you will get approval to market the generic drug product.
Okay. So another thing is that what are nutraceuticals?
Nutraceuticals is nothing but pharmaceuticals name. They are calling it nutraceutical, but they are dietary supplements.
Okay.
Nutritional supplements which have some therapeutic value.
Right.
I mean, you can see right now your turmeric, harad.
Right.
Right now it's a big deal because it's antioxidant and free radicals and things like that. So it's people have started understanding that some of the some nutritional things in our day-to-day life have pharmaceutical effect in our body. So nutraceutical or dietary supplement is the same thing.
Okay. And is China catching up to India in pharma?
I think they will, but I think China is, they might do that, but I think the market for China is they are way behind from India. Really, India is much more from a formulation type, manufacturing type. India is much more ahead, and some of the companies are actually, not only doing copying or making generic product, but they are making their own new drug, and that has started in India as well. So I think it might happen sometime, but I think India is way ahead. So I think I hope they don't, but
right,
they might.
Yeah. And are biopharmaceuticals the same as biological products?
Yeah, I mean, it's what is happening is now these biological drugs have become in last 20 years. That was, before that, it was all chemical-based manufacturing of the product. So as soon as they came into the picture, so the question came in, so what do we call them? So then the companies and there is a pharmaceutical society or consortium of all the pharmaceutical companies or pharmaceutical research companies of USA. They started talking about what should we call this, and then it's on one hand it's a pharmaceutical, it's on the second hand it's a biological. So then it's a biopharmaceutical basically encompasses not only chemical based product but the biological based product also. So it's a now instead of calling pharmaceutical industry, it's called biopharmaceutical industry.
Okay. And the next thing is that why COVID vaccine will need below minus 80 degree Fahrenheit storage? Will the vaccine change yearly, or what is the freezer life for this vaccine?
Again, every vaccine, some vaccine like the Moderna or I think the AstraZeneca vaccine, they have a different requirement, or Pfizer had requirement for much lower temperature. Now, why is it, depending upon the technology that they have used, and that is the biggest challenge, because when you talk about that low a temperature to maintain all the way from the manufacturing all the way to the doctor's office, people have to, the companies as well as transportation companies have to have so much specialized freezers that will retain that temperature, that low temperature while transportation. Now, why they are that low compared to some other vaccines? Now, even flu vaccine requires certain amount of temperature, but I'm not sure that it is required that low as some of the COVID vaccine. So it may be In my opinion, it may be a safety decision that, because we don't have enough experience. What happens if it is not minus 50 and what happens if minus 40? There is not enough studies done. And this is why normally when it takes 10, 15 years to do the vaccine development, they go through all these stages of why certain temperatures, why it has to have, requirements. These are all evaluated over the period. Now we're trying to do this in a less than a year. And so we may not know exactly if that is the correct temperature that these vaccines have to be kept at lower temperature. I'm not sure why, but they are, different companies have different requirements. And I think it all depends upon the process that they are going through and the technology that they are utilizing.
Right. And so based on that, will the third world countries and also, of course, America have the money?
That will be a big challenge in the third world countries, because that is the most, you talk about India or even Africa, how can you manage to have a small village receive the vaccine that requires this kind of stringent requirement? We are going to have that problem in India quite a bit. Yes.
Right. And is foil packaging better, as most Indians need are, or the medicals are? Is the foil packaging better?
Yeah. Well, particularly you see that is a very good question, because in India, because of the temperature and humidity requirement, the issues are quite a bit. Now, when you see tablets which are dispensed in this country, you can't buy just strip packaging of any prescription drug. They are filled in because there is a real cycle of people who are going through the system. You got a pharmacy, or pharmacist has to be paid. So they count the tablet and then give you. So that process itself requires the tablets have to be in bottles. The capsule or the tablets in India, they are basically not required to be dispensed by the way the pharmacists dispense in this country. Also, the ease with which the tablets or capsules can be carried in your pocket, the aluminum foil that you see in India, they have been tested to maintain it from heat and humidity for a longer period of time. It basically protects the tablet much better. I prefer that much better than tablets, which is in a bottle here. And if you keep it in your pocket, it is a good way of marketing. In India, it is easier to do that because this is called strip packaging or foil packaging. That is much more prevalent in Europe also. Only in India, only in the US, strip packaging is not as prevalent because the drugstore pharmacist has to be paid. And that is his job, is that justification for his job, I think.
Right. And then what raw materials are imported from China by Indian pharma companies?
Lot of raw materials are imported. And I think the current situation that is happening in India, where Indian government is basically putting some stringent requirement for anything that is imported from China, has affected the pharmaceutical companies. That a lot of these chemicals, number of chemicals are actually imported from China, even though India manufactures a lot of those chemicals themselves, but the quantity requirement is so high. So you cannot really produce. Now, I know one case where I know that I was involved with one of the situations where one of the company that I was working with, they had raw material requirement, very specialized requirement that they had, and they decided to manufacture it in Europe. This is a Dutch company rather, and they wanted to manufacture, and it would have taken them a long time. They went to China, and literally within a 6 months period, the company basically established the product. The plant was set up. equipment was set up, the product was manufactured within 6 months. And they have that capability of doing it because of the way they function. Maybe the government is basically telling they want to do it, and there are no restrictions of anything, then they can do it. So percentage of a lot of drugs are being imported by India from China, some of the raw materials particularly. Now, with this current situation, it might happen that India might spend a lot more time and energy and money to manufacture some of these products, within India itself. And that might be good long term.
Okay. And I think there's two more questions. So there are numbers and letters on the capsules. Is there standardization on that?
Yes, the capsules, they come in, they come in really size 00. Okay. Those are the largest. You will see a lot of the nutraceutical product are large capsules, down to a very tiny one called size 4 capsules, which is, it gradually goes down. Now, the tablets or capsules have imprinting on it. That is sometimes the name of the product or the drug NDC code number that is recognizing that particular dosage form, or whether it is a 2 milligram or 5 milligram or 20 milligram drug in that capsule or in that tablet. So it depends upon what the company wants and what FDA requires them to do. Even the names of the products that you see, because I got involved in one of the situations where we needed to have name of the product, but you have to get approval of that. This is a prescription product, a new prescription product that we were trying to market, to bring it to the market. And we had to submit different names. And the names have to be such that they cannot be confused by the doctors of existing medication that is in the market. And only after that, they would allow you to use that particular name in your for your product. The same thing, whether the capsule or tablet has to be imprinted. The imprinting, you will see, for example, I showed you in the slide, Gilead on one of the tablet. It's basically along with punching of the tablet. During the punching of the tablet, that embossing is taking place. But there are ways you can imprint after you finish your coating of the tablet with whatever. So individual tablet is actually printed. It's a printer. It's a very high-speed printer that the individual tablet go through, and the printing takes place with a very, very fine amount of ink.
Okay. And the last one, it's a bit of personal question kind of thing, but it's saying that, do you and Lena personally trust taking pills to cure you, or do you avoid pills and try to heal naturally?
The vaccine or?
No, just the pills.
Yeah, I mean, we take, I know, if it is a question of, I don't really have a hang up about taking generic drugs or,
Brand name.
Brand name. Yeah. So here's Lena again. She can, as a doctor, she can talk a little bit here. Talk. The question is, do we take the tablets or pills? So we take I take every day multivitamin, take vitamin D3.
I don't believe too much in supplements, but he forces me to take it. So I do take it. I do take calcium and vitamin D. Yeah.
But the question is that should we take pills to cure ourselves or just heal naturally?
Well, if you could do it naturally, I would prefer that. But in most of the cases, we have the way our lifestyle is, or if you don't have to take any medication,
don't take it.
Don't take it. That is But I take it because I know some other deficiencies in our food. Being a vegetarian, sometimes we don't get all the nutrients that are needed. or some vitamins. So I take it more like a precaution. But other than that, no, I agree with my wife. She's very reluctant to take any medication. Even when she's prescribing to patients, she's very reluctant to prescribe drugs.
And I prescribe pediatric doses, even myself, if I have to take medicine, I take very small dose, I won't jump it to like a regular recommended dose. I'm like that.
So yeah, I think it's personal choice, but I think if you don't have to take medication, because
Yeah,
the thing is this: every medication has a side effect. Okay, so having said that, sometimes you have to take, and I think FDA, when they approve the product, they look at pluses and minuses, and if the pluses are much more than minuses, then they have to approve it with warning. And then when they find out more detrimental effects are being discovered when the product goes into the marketplace, then they force the companies to what is called a black box around the prescription, so that it is a warning sign to the prescriber that you don't just give it to anybody. You have to have some good rationale to be able to have this drug given to these patients. But if you don't have to take it, don't take it. But everybody getting as they get older, sometimes you need certain medication. I mean, there are people who don't require anything and they're perfectly all right. Their bodies are perfectly balanced with all the pluses and I'm more power to them. I wish everybody can do that and not take any medication. Having said, this is coming from a guy who made my life, all my life, all the medications that are out there in the marketplace.
Right. And on a similar basis, like the pill like Centrum Silver, why is it big in size and hard to swallow for seniors? Any specific reason why it cannot be smaller?
Well, if you look at the label on that, you see all the ingredients that they have to put in. And that's why this tablets become larger, because they have to incorporate all those and then other ingredients that for them to make it into a tablet and help when you swallow the tablet, it doesn't have to pass intact through the system. It needs to break up. So you have to have some other ingredients. So if you total up all the list of ingredients that are listed on the label, and say, for example, the tablet is that size, and if you weigh the tablet may be 750 to 800 milligram tablet. But if you total up all the active ingredients in there, you'll find something like 300 milligram is total amount, or 400 milligram, whatever the case may be, lot less than the total weight of the tablet. The total weight of the tablet is then majority is coming from other ingredients that are required for it to make a tablet and actually, break it up in your system.
Okay. And for the expiration dates on the tablets and pills and all those things, so are the date of expiration approximate, or like
no?
It
Okay,
has to be like on that date?
Good question, because
Yes,
this is a very good question.
Okay.
The expiration dating is the way expiration dating works. Any product that has to come into the market, whether it is over the counter or prescription, when the product is finished manufacturing in the early stages, not in the market yet, they have to put this product in different type of incubators. There are different chambers with a different humidity and temperature requirements in each chamber. So every month you take, the high humidity, low humidity, and high temperature, low temperature. So different chambers are there, and the same product is manufactured and put into these as a sample bottles, for example. So maybe 20 bottles in each chamber are put. Every month, a laboratory has to analyze what is the status of the active ingredient in each of these tablets that are in different chambers. They have to do this for 3 months. And at the end of 3 months, they have to be able to show that if the label claims 100 milligram of tablet, the active ingredient, in the beginning, it was 100 milligram. It has to be 100 milligram at the end of 3 months. Okay. Now, there is a scientific equation that has to be employed to show that if you can maintain that under these conditions, the potency of the drug same as at the beginning, then you can claim to have 3 years of shelf life. And that's how the study is submitted to the laboratory, to the FDA. And FDA basically reviews all the data that you have come up with. And then, so that is called stability study. That stability study establishes the expiration dating. So the expiration dating is on the bottle based upon that study. Now, what happens if you see the expiration and the particularly tablets and capsule I'm talking about, if it is expiring tomorrow morning, it doesn't mean there is no good. I can use that tablet because, see, the thing is, this is a very conservative date that companies have put on to be able to protect themselves. Because if somebody does the studies after that exactly at the expiration dating and comes up with saying, oh, you're saying it should be good until September 28th. It is not, because I analyzed it today. They should not have any problem like that. So they become much more cautious, and they actually make sure that it is 100 milligram on the day of expiration. Now, if I have to take an expired product, I don't have any problem taking either tablet or capsule, because they are fairly stable product, and I can take that for next couple of months. What the worst thing that will happen is some breakdown of your active ingredient. So if it is 100 milligram, you might get 98 milligrams. So I would not necessarily throw things out just the next day the product expires. That may not be the case for liquid products, particularly if you're ingesting liquid drugs. I would not try to keep it beyond expiration dating, because liquids are much more unstable by nature, and they might have some precipitation that might take place over a period of time, and some emulsions, particularly where you have to shake the bottle before you actually take it. Those emulsions may really break down, and you may not get a good dose if you take it after it expires. So liquid, I would not take it beyond expiration dating, but tablet and capsule, I personally have taken it, and I don't really feel that it is detrimental.
Maybe the efficacy.
Or you cannot totally throw it out.
Efficacy goes down.
I think that's all question what I have it. So thank you so much. So what I will do is that I will just stop the record.